Do you remember seeing a cloud that's almost in shape of a camel or seeing a crumpled paper that's almost in shape of a dog? This phenomena is known as pareidolia. Today we have Kunal Kundu, who is an paper crumbling artist, which simply means to crumble a paper and unlock your imagination to create wonderful animals out of it. Kunal is an award winning artist represented by Anna Oswanger, Literacy Agency, USA, and China. Before we proceed with our episode, we have a small announcement for you all. From this episode onwards, we are going to release two-part series on Friday and Sunday at 6 pm. Now, let's continue with the conversation with Kunal Kundu, learning about his struggles and design process involved behind making these beautiful art pieces. Hi Kunal, it is an absolute pleasure to host you on this show today. I would like to ask you, how are you, and could you introduce yourself for my audience?
Yeah, thank you, Parth, for inviting me. It's my pleasure. My name is Kunal Kundu, and I'm an artist based in Calcutta, and I'm also an animation film designer. Also an illustrator, but mostly I'm an artist, and my signature style is crumpled paper art. I make paper sculptures, so that's who I am.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I want to ask you, how has your childhood been, and how has it shaped you in being an artist?
Childhood has been like I guess like most of the child. I lost my father at a young age, so most of the time like my mom used to be in the office. My elder brother used to be in like school, high school. So I used to get back early, and I used to spend most of my time like little alone and with my like children's books. I used to make stuff with my hands. I used to draw and paint. I spend a lot of time playing cricket with my friends and go for fishing, flying kites, and everything. So it's like a regular childhood, but I spend a lot of time doing things with my hands. So I think that kind of shaped up being who I am today. So I think that kind of helped.
Yeah, so you have done your bachelor's degree from NID, and then you have worked as a film animator for several years. So how has this experience been, and could you share your memories of NID?
See, the thing is, I used to draw like regularly till eighth standard. Like I was quite good at drawing. Like I won a lot of competitions and everything, like in local sit and draw competitions and everything. And but I kind of stopped drawing altogether around that age because it's like back in those days you have to become like an engineer or a doctor or something. So then nothing like I wasn't really interested in that field, but I did not know what to do with my art life also because back then I did not know about NID. So I remember one incident very vividly, like when I was in class 11th standard, I was in college. There was some boring lecture going on in the class, and I was trying to sketch someone, like drawing a doodle kind of thing. And the class got over, and there was one guy who came in and saw my drawing. It was a really badly drawn sketch because I was really out of touch. So this guy said like a very sarcastic comment, like he said like, if you can't draw, like why do you even try? So that kind of hit very hard because I knew that I was quite decent at some point. Like I was known in school like he's like a good artist kind of thing. So that kind of hit really hard. And that day I came back home, I decided that I want to be an artist. I don't want to be an engineer. I don't want to be a doctor. I want to be an artist. And from that night itself, I started drawing every night after studies and everything, whatever, because I knew that I don't want to study to become a doctor in engineer. I just want to finish off those courses and everything. So I started drawing from 11th standard, 11th, 12th, first year and everything. I made a solid portfolio. I made a comics, 62 pages, solid comics, very heavily inspired by Tintin. Like back in those days, like there was no internet to help me out or guide me in any ways. So Tintin was my guide and everything. So I made a comics, I made a lot of drawings, and I made a solid portfolio. I came to know about NID by through my cousin who already had gone through and everything. So I applied for that. I got selected, and then life started as an artist, designer, and everything. So that's how I got through and completed the course and became an animation film designer. So that's how life began.
Yeah, and in film animator, where have you worked, and how has that corporate life have been for you?
It was interesting because I started life as a short film maker with a few studios in Bombay. Then I shifted to Delhi, and there was like Sesame Street, you have heard about. Like Sesame Street had the Indian leg, which was known as Gully Gully Sim Sim. So I worked on that project for a year. So I was part of a team. So we had to make 65 short films in various styles. Like it was very exciting project. Like 65 films in like stop motion, flash animation, 2D cell animation. So it was very exciting. Like 2 minutes, 3 minutes short films. So that was very interesting for me. So I was part of that project. So I did that for a while, and then I left office, regular office, because freelance was something very exciting again. Then I did that for a while, doing animation projects for different studios. So that went on for a while, but after a point, like animation is something that you understand that you need a kind of big team. Like 4 5 guys doing animation doesn't really work out. Either you have a big studio team, or you don't do it at all, because it kind of, the quality doesn't happen. Then I started doing illustration, because illustration is something that you can handle on your own. You can do a quality job out of that. So then animation kind of stopped. Illustration started happening. So I started doing illustration jobs for publishing houses, and I worked with almost all the publishing houses in India. And then the illustration career kind of went on.
That's great, sir. And yeah, you had a great. I can say that you had a great experience with a film and as a film animator, and then as an illustrator. So how did you actually came across this art which you actually perform right now, which is paper crumbling? As most of the people aren't aware about this, and as you mentioned earlier while we were talking, that it was actually you discovered it by accident. So could you share that memory with us?
Yeah, see, the thing is that illustration freelance part of my life went on for quite a few years. Like I started working for Indian publishing houses, like the book publishers and the editorial illustrations. Like I worked with like Rolling Stone, Verb, GQ, like all these big publishing houses and everything. That went on good for a while. I used to get regular work and everything. I used to get featured there. But then I started working with international guys also, because that also started happening. But after a point when I was close to turning 40, I suddenly realized one day that it's like something is amiss. Like it's like I was doing illustration, I was fairly doing all right, but there was no particular style of my own. Like I was becoming like a jack of all trades. I can do everything a little bit here and there, but master of none. Like and that's like when you turn 40, that's like a very critical age also in anybody's life. You suddenly turn 40 and you've not done anything worthwhile in your life. I had got one international award, gold award at that point, but that was there. But still nothing concrete. Like as an individual artist, you still want something to happen by that time. So I decided to stop work for some time. I took a break. I decided that I'm not going to work for some time, and I just want to figure out like what exactly I'm doing with my life. I'm not an animation film designer anymore, because I don't do animation. I have done illustration for a long time now, but I've not developed any particular style of my own. and I was debating. I was reading up articles about like being a polymath artist and being an artist who's got a very particular signature style. I was looking at the pros and cons of both the things. So there I stumbled upon an article by an art director. I forgot the name of that art director. I'd really like to thank him. There he said something like he like kind of talked about what are the good things about developing your own style and how to go about it and everything. That article kind of moved me. I decided that I want to develop a style, but that coming up with own style is something that you can't do it overnight. Like you don't, like, you look for a style, but eventually the style finds you. I think that happens. Like, so I stopped working, and every day I used to get up, do the house chores and everything, and I used to lie on the bed and look up at the ceiling and do nothing. And by the time I was married, my wife got a little worried, like, what exactly are you doing here? Like, you already don't have a regular job. You used to do freelance, but right now you're not doing anything. But I said that let me just think. Like, I'm thinking something. There are a lot of things happening in my head right now. Nothing is happening with my hands, but I'm thinking, and that is very important. So one day I decided, okay, I want to try out watercolor. Let me see if watercolor color is my thing or not. So I got watercolor. I got watercolor paper. I started doing watercolor. I did a couple of paintings. I looked at them. They were decent, but I figured out that's not my thing, because I know there are much better watercolor artists all over the place. That's not, that's not going to be my thing. So the next day I decided, okay, let me get crayons. I got crayons. I did some paintings. I figured out the same thing is happening. It's decent, but that's not my thing. Similarly, I tried out different mediums like acrylic, pencil, this, that, whatever. Nothing was happening. So I was kind of getting very desperate at that point. So my son was born at that point, and he was like 1 year old and a few months old at that time. He started walking, trying to develop his motor skills. So I used to give him like my scrap paper and this thing. I used to crumple this paper things and throw it around and play with it. So I was cleaning up those paper sheets, and I took one of the paper sheets and started looking like a dog's face. And this is like a this is known as a pareidolia phenomenon. Like, you look up in the clouds and you see shapes like a lion or a horse or something. So that kind of phenomenon. So it started looking like a dog's face. And something incredible happened. It's like that magic moment or eureka moment. I figured out, okay, this can be my style. Why can't I make paper sculptures out of this? So I took that shape, and I made the body, the limbs, the tail, and I make a proper this dog sculpture. I shot that, and I posted it on my social media, and I got a lot of appreciation for it. And I figured out that, okay, people are liking it also. I made another sculpture. Then I made another sculpture. Then just to give it into a series kind of thing, I thought, okay, I'll make endangered species series out of this new style that I've developed. So I made a series out of this, and I posted it on social media, and people said, oh, this is a very interesting style. This is very unique. And that's how I kind of developed this style, and I gave it a name, like crumple paper art. And then some people said, "Arey, this is a technique called crumpling. You should check it out." And so I googled it. Okay, what is crumpling? It's like a origami technique. And there is one guy called Vincent Foderer. He's a French origami artist. He's known as the master of crumpling. There is a guy called Paul Jackson. He's also a very master of origami, whose technique is crumpling. So I understood about the origami thing, the crumpling thing later on, but I developed this as an accident. But at that point, I was so much into it. I thought, I'm not going to do it as an origami thing. I'm not going to do it as anything, because I wanted to come up with something unique, and I'm going to continue doing it. And by that time, I've actually developed that style so much that I do it in my own way. So that's how it came up. So now I do it in a very unique way. I know what to do with it, and that's how I do it. So
Many artists don't even aren't even fortunate enough to find their own style. Many do struggle. Like as you mentioned, when we are in client-based service providing a firm or an service provider, we don't have that flexibility to do our thing. So the thing about ourselves gets lost. And I'm fortunate enough that you did found your style. And talking about the last part which you just mentioned, that you don't want it to look like an origami thing. So how would you actually differentiate between origami and your art?
See, the thing is, since I figured this style as an accident, and I was obviously consciously trying to develop my own style and not copy anybody's style. I and Origami is something like, I know that you have to do this fold, and after this you have to follow this fold and everything. I was not going in that direction at all. Okay, to start with that. And once I have developed this style, and when some other paper artist or origami artist pointed out to me that okay, this is style technique there is already there, which is called crumpling, I said okay, fine, there must be a style called crumpling, but I developed it in a very different way. And I can understand that there can be an overlap of technique or whatever, but I don't want to follow that style, and I'm not trying to take anything away from it. And my point is, I developed this style as an accident, and I knew that this is a pareidolia phenomenon, that is, I have taken that forward, and now that accidental bit which actually happened, I'm now trying to do a reverse accidental part of that. I'm doing it as a reverse thing. I'm trying to make it look like an accident. Like if you see my paper sculptures, it looks like that particular animal that I'm trying to portray, but at the same time you immediately know that it's just paper crumpled together. It's nothing beyond that. So it's like that. So it's not origami at all, but also it's origami. It's paper sculpture. I do it in a very different way. And it's like, as an artist, I don't want to think too much about the technicality, what exactly this or what. I enjoy crumpling paper. You give me paper, I'll crumple it to my heart's content to make something which is in my head. That's what I do. So I don't have any problem with that.
uh, Absolutely. As artist actually loves what he actually does, it doesn't matter what you actually name it or what you actually want to get out of it, but it's the enjoyment of an artist in doing the process, and actually enjoying the outcome which comes after it. So I want to ask you right now that how you actually do the complete process. Like what is the method you follow, as you have actually developed your own. So how does this design process goes in making paper crumbling art?
See, the thing is, what I do is, if I I've only made animal sculptures out of it. I've not made any human sculptures. I've tried something to make faces, human faces, but I've not really gone deep into it yet, because I'm still having so much fun with animal sculptures. I'm still into that. It's just been a few years only, so I still have a lot of time to develop. What I do is, basically, it's like, suppose I've thought about that, okay, I want to make this tiger or a leopard. So what I do is, I study that animal form very in a studious manner. Okay, I look at a lot of pictures, a lot of videos to understand the animal form, their movement, and these and that, everything. So I have a mental picture, and then I sketch them out lots. Okay, and then I try to understand the form in a very 3D manner inside my head, and then I develop the forms in a very simpler forms, so that I understand, okay, these are the shapes that I'm going to crumple the paper into. Then I start going into that space where I'm actually taking the paper and crumpling those into that forms. And since I have already done art and illustration, I understand how the gesture drawings of that form is going to play around. So I just work on that, and then I just crumple the things, and it's like a very artistic process. And once I get into that zone, it's actually very difficult to with origami you can give a tutorial. With my art, I can't give a tutorial of that. It's like a sculptor doing a very clay kind of thing. I treat this paper medium as a very clay kind of thing. I crumple the thing and I know this shape is going to happen. If it doesn't happen, I'll crumple a little more. I'll just crush it a little more, it will happen. It's like a very fluid way I take this medium. So that's how I go about it.
Sir, do you have any examples around you?
Yeah, I can show you some of the examples. Yeah, I'll show you. This is one of the first sculptures that I made. This is the whale sculpture. So this is like, you can understand that this is still very fluffy. Like if I want, I can still crumple it and get it into like 1/10 of the size. So this is not very packed in together, but you can still understand like this is how I go about it. This is very light and not very packed in. This is not paper mache. You can understand this, how it happens. So this is one of the sculptures that I made, and this is another one I can show you. This is the hawksbill sea turtle that I made, and these things are very fluffy. They're not very packed in together. And I always start with the face. Like once you do the face, you know that the rest of the things you can pull it off. Types. Then I'll show you another one. This is the pangolin one. The scales took a lot of time to make, but yeah, you can say
Absolutely beautiful, sir.
so these are the things, and I'll show you another one. This is the walrus, Pacific walrus. This one. So you like this is like very meditative for me at some point. I really enjoy doing this, and the fun thing is like it's like, since I treat this paper medium as clay, it's like you're building up. You already have that shape in mind, the final thing, but when you're building up, it's like you're putting up the skeleton, then the muscles, that kind of thing happens. But even halfway through, the animal doesn't look like that final thing. So a lot of times, like even you are done 70% of the work, it's not going anywhere, and I'm thinking like, okay, it's not really happening. But some part of my brain is saying like, don't worry, it's going to happen. Because the thing is that eureka moment wasn't a fluke. That eureka moment was very true, because I figured out like, I know what I'm going to do with this thing. And that is true, because you give me paper, you tell me, okay, can you make me this? I know I can make you this. That is very, very true. So I'm very confident about this particular thing, and that's what happened. Like with that that phase I was going on, like watercolor, this crayon thing, I was trying out desperate things. I wasn't like confident about that thing. But with this thing, I'm very confident. You tell me like, right now I'm doing it in this scale, but eventually 5 years down the line, I want to make big scale things out of this same thing. So that's I'm looking at.
That the sculpture which you showed us were absolutely beautiful, sir. Congrats to all of you who made it till the end. And by the way, if you had any question which came up because of the content we covered with our guest, go on YouTube, go on Instagram, and you can leave us a comment. We will surely get back to you and help you as much as possible. Arttown.store, that's the website name, and our Instagram ID too. Find us and talk to us. We are waiting to